safety and industrial products from Grainger, offering supplies and solutions for every industry, plus same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. Grainger can help you stay on top of your game. Not sure exactly what you need? Huddle up with Grainger's product specialists. They'll tackle your toughest questions to help you move your team forward. Call Grainger.com.
It's easy to follow along with your favorite Raider Nation radio shows from anywhere. Listen live anytime on the Raiders app or at lvsportsnetwork.com. This is Raider Nation Radio 920 AM. Another Monday Night Football twofer, as on the 30th, it's Tennessee at Miami on 12:30 The Game, and Seattle at Detroit on Raider Nation Radio 920. Brought to you by Finley Chevrolet, home of the...
Gambler's bonus hits again. On August 27th, Mark hit 4 threes, clearing his Gambler's bonus farm and bingo card for over $11,000. Mark hit big and so can you with Gambler's bonus. It's why you play the game.
I'm Eli Manning. I'm Nate Manning. I want to tell you about the Caesars Sportsbook Nevada app and Caesars Rewards.
Omaha.
Redeem your Caesars Reward credit for sports bets right on the app. You can also use the Caesars Reward credits earned on the app for meals and experiences at 15 resorts across the state, including the Bacchanal Buffet.
We can have some fun.
What's up? What's up? All right. What a day today. I did not expect this. Did not expect this. But I've been down this road before, unfortunately. But fortunately, because I got a cool job and I get able to talk sports. All right. What are we going to do today? Here we go. This one, I wouldn't consider it a tough one, but this one, you need experience to do this show today. This isn't a show you throw into some guy or gal who hasn't been on the radio for 20 plus years. You ask them to take the day off. And you ask them to take the day off. You don't want them on the radio today. Me, I can handle this.
By the way, throw it open.
Man, haven't slept much. Was up at 8 a.m. at the team. I was at the building all morning. That was interesting. I did 15 minutes with Rich Gannon. He wasn't happy. Yep, I got to do the night show over at Wynn. So we're going to take Antonio Pierce's press conference live. If you you listen to us, you'll be able to hear it. If you have another device, you'll be able to see it.
They're not from around here. I'm Richard Harris.
Raider Nation, what's your name?
I grew up here. I went to school here. I raised
Cool.
my
You're
family.
gonna be at home for a few. I'll try to get
No one
you.
knows Nevada like we do. If you've been injured, call Richard Harris.
All right. Yeah, you can call it embarrassing and all that. We all know what it was. It was awful. It was a bad loss. There's no doubt about it. All right. You can blame Getsy all you want. You can blame Getsy all you want, but if you don't get on the performance of the players, okay, who didn't block, who didn't catch, who didn't tackle, you want to blame coaches for that, you can do that. But you better just not throw trash at coaches and give the players a pass.
To the JT the Brick Show, where the Raider Nation has come to sound off and react for over 20 years.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio. Raiders bring a blitz. He takes it off the middle, and he's wrapped up from behind. Max Crosby. Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years. Over to the 35, racing to the 20, 10, touchdown Raiders. And now, here's JT the Brick.
Yes, here I am, and here we go. Welcome into the aftermath. It is the aftermath of the loss to Carolina yesterday. I was there. Maybe you were there. And I want to hear from you as we are live on YouTube. JT the Brick YT. I think you'd like to watch this one today, or you could watch it on replay. Do whatever you want. Thanks for listening on the Raiders mobile app, the flagship station here in Vegas. And here's what we're going to do today. The coach is speaking in 15 minutes. This is without a doubt the most important press conference of his career, period. And I like the coach a lot. I like all the coaches. I work with them one-on-one, and this is a big one for him because of what he said yesterday after the game. So I was in the building all morning. I have barely slept. I finished the post game last night for 90 minutes, and then I did my 3-hour national show to 11 at night, and I was sitting on the TV set in deep Henderson at 8 in the morning. So I'm working on like 3 hours sleep if I got that. It wasn't a good 3 hours sleep because I was really pissed off and upset because I spent a lot of money to go to that game. My sons, my wife, was with a lot of friends who came into town for the game, and I'm not in a good mood after that one. But I've gone down this road before. As I told Bobby, this is not the day you want some inexperienced person on the radio. This is the day I hope you listen to me because I know where the fence line is. I know where the cliff is. I know where the barbed wire fence is, and most people don't. So I'll act accordingly as we get this thing going here and we get rolling. There are now officially so many questions unanswered, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know who's hurt. I don't know who's gone for the year. I don't know who's nicked up. I don't know who's playing through pain. I don't know who the coach pointed out yesterday in his pointed out press conference. I don't know anything other than the fact that there's a lot of meetings going on in that building when I was there. There were a lot of people in meetings today when I was there specifically to clean this up, which is a term I normally don't use. And now you have to clean up a toxic oil spill after what happened in the home opener against the Carolina Panthers. That's the focus of the monologue brought to you by PTs. They fuel the monologue 5 to 7, midnight to 2. The best happy hour in town, over 70 taverns here, 70. And they'll be great for you if you want to go to lunch, dinner, you're a gamer or not, you want to talk sports, watch sports. Go there. We thank PTs for everything they do for me. That was the worst football game I've ever been to at Allegiant Stadium. That goes to the worst football game, the top of the list of professional football played at Allegiant Stadium by the Las Vegas Raiders. That stands alone as the worst football game I have seen when it comes to outcome, storylines, and effort. It is worse than the Jeff Saturday game. It is worse than the Kyler Murray comeback because the Raiders actually showed up in the first half of that game. It is worse than the 3-0 loss to Minnesota. It is the worst game that I've ever been through as a member of the organization and a fan in regards to what was at stake and what happened in the game. They absolutely no-showed the season opener at home. That's almost literally impossible to do. If you look at possibilities in sports, there's a lot of things, an Ohtani walk-off home run, a possibility of a bad team beating a good team. Everything you can combine together in sports, and we all love sports. I cannot wrap my head around what I actually saw yesterday because the fans were electric. Everything was unbelievable in the building. The stage was set for an unbelievable game performance. The fans showed up and the team didn't show up. I didn't expect that. You didn't expect that. I told you all last week, Andy Dalton was coming to town. I had guys calling me up 44-10, 35-3, and I walked you through it all, and I told you no, because Andy Dalton was going to come to play, and he was going to come to win the game. And I thought the Raiders would win the game, but it would be late, and they'd pull away because they make the plays, because they got better players. They have a better team, and they'd win the game. But, I don't give you the score and all that. That's for you to do, to entertain us. And you can jump in here and give us your opinion on anything you'd like. I will tell you this. I looked on. I was numb. I was numb the whole game because I just looked at that and I didn't know that team. I did not know that team. Now, guys are hurt, and I think I did a hell of a job telling you about that. I said on the pregame show with the Torch with Eric Allen, I do not like this injury report. There's a lot of guys hurt. Malcolm Kuntz gone for the year. We'll find out about Marcus Epps today, which isn't going to be good. We can find out about Max Crosby is injured. He'll play through the injury. And, you look at the team, and the team clearly isn't 100%, but there are teams far worse injured than the Las Vegas Raiders. Number one on that list is Cleveland. Cleveland got decimated yesterday with injuries. They're coming to Vegas. I'll have all week to get into Cleveland. The Rams came back from the dead with, I believe, 7 players on IR. Half of their team injured. The Niners had half of their team injured, including George Kittle, Deebo Samuels, and Christian McCaffrey. And the Rams came back and beat them. They got the same amount of injuries as the Raiders. But the Raiders were out-coached, out-hustled in their home opener, and they took all the energy out of their building that the fans gave them at the home opener. There were a few Carolina fans, not many. That was probably the lowest turnout I saw from another team since the opening of Allegiant Stadium. The lowest turnout by an opposing fan base was there, and they got loud at the end, and they deserved to. There's a couple of things that I want to tell you bothered me about the game. Number one, they have coaches in the building who are familiar with Andy Dalton. And you would have acted like there wasn't ever a piece of film ever in the history of the sport dating back to the archives at NFL Films on Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton destroyed and ripped apart the Raiders' defense like it was the varsity versus the JV. And early in the game, when Carolina opened the game and went the length of the field and scored on that opening drive, I knew there was a big problem because the Raiders couldn't defend basic 5-yard slants on the inside. They couldn't cover the slant. They got blown away on the most rudimentary, basic routes you could throw. And then there was no pursuit. That's when I knew there was a problem. When someone catches a 6-yard slant and there's not a linebacker in the middle of the field, there's not a safety coming down to tackle, and there's not another cornerback leaving a man to go see it happening to make a play. And I said, oh boy, what's going on? I told you all week, all Andy Dalton was going to do is get the ball out quick. That's what he did, and the Raiders couldn't defend it. I really was disappointed because the Raiders looked slow to me. They looked a half a step off, and it was very noticeable to all the fans in the building that the Raiders weren't good at tackling. They weren't good in pursuit. They had no energy. They had no moxie. They had no game. And that can't happen. For those who told me during the week, well, JT, this is a trap game. It's a trap game. And I said, well, you guys gamble, I don't. But it's not going to be a trap game for one reason. It's the home opener. You can't have a trap game in the home opener. You can have a trap game week 7, 8, 9 when you're 4-3 and you got Kansas City the following week and Carolina comes in. Absolutely. You cannot have a bleeping trap game in your home opener. So they didn't show up. The coach called them out after the game. So we've had a spirited conversation in the building today at headquarters about that. Okay, I did 15 minutes with Rich Gannon, and Eric Allen was very vocal on the topic. I agree with Eric Allen that I like this about this coach. And it's a good debatable topic because a lot of other people don't. They're like, keep that in-house, keep that in-house. Look, you can't have cigar parties in the locker room. You can't have this rah-rah we won, which I'm good with, and bringing Hall of Famers in the locker room when you win. You better be able to light them up when they lose. If you want one thing, which is euphoria, happiness, energy, this guy's got a lot of it. He's very good at that. He always has the team pretty much ready to play. He's one of those guys, hey, last thing I'm going to say before we go out there and guys are punching lockers. That's him. That's who he is. Plus, he's a great player. He won a Super Bowl with the Giants. He was ready to play, and he backed it up on the field. The coach is allowed to call out the players. And I don't think a lot of Raider Nation understands why. He has told me to my face on the record that he wants to be the coach of this team long term, and he knows he has to win to do it. So Antonio Pierce just rang the fire bell in the building. He hit the ripcord at Allegiant Stadium, the fire alarm, and he pulled the ripcord and said, something happened here, and I'm not holding back until the press conference on Monday. I'm going to say it now. That guys were cashing checks, guys weren't hustling, and it's our job to figure out who's he talking about. Is he talking about Jack Jones, Devontae, a backup guy? I don't know. But we're all going to find out. Because you can't say that. You can't say that to media, national and local, without them figuring it out. I'm not in the news-making business. I leave that to Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, Vinny Bonsignor. That's what they do. I just run a fast-paced radio show. But as I tweeted at halftime of the game, he needed to light that team up at halftime, and I'm sure he did. And I also said on our live stream today, before you start ripping Luke Getsy, which he deserves criticism, you got to point your fingers to the players also. Let's go live to the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center. Here's the head coach of the Raiders.
What do you feel like the message needs to be today?
Oh, we just got a correction. Very direct. It is what it is. That's what we're going to do. Call a spade a spade.
You've had some time to reflect on the game yesterday and the first loss in that kind of fashion since you've been coach. What did you learn from that? And looking back, was there anything you felt like, you could have done better or learned from this experience?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. There could be a slip up in a game like this where you have, high of a highs against the Ravens and you come out against a team that everybody's expecting you to beat. So we discussed that. We talked about the physicality, talked about, Andy Dalton and his efficiency, getting the ball out quick, understanding the offense. Just kind of looking back, I think all of us, myself, the staff, it's just got to be better. It's got to be better.
After the game, you talked about the Raiders having to make business decisions. Have you made any of those yet?
No, we haven't. Got to give it to the players first.
Obviously, a lot was made of that comment, national media-wise this morning. I guess as you think about it, are you happy that you pointed it out? And
I don't bite my tongue.
Let him know.
When it comes to making business decisions on the coaching staff's part, is it something lineup changes? Is it potentially guys?
Whatever helps the Raiders win. And right now, that performance is not going to help any team win, let alone the Raiders.
Turning over the last 4 games last year, Zamir ran. He led the NFL in rushing and rushing yards per carry. I know that there was a scheme change. There was an offensive, coaching change. Do you feel like maybe it needs to get back to what you were doing last year, because there was success last year?
No, it was. We did, and last year. We are where we are now. Worst running teams in football, and that's not something I'm proud of. Our staff's not proud of. I'm sure our team's not. And again, we'll get in here and we'll chip away after we make the corrections from today and be honest with one another. But it's very disappointing to watch our run game.
I feel like there's some scheme changes that can
I think there's a lot of changes.
Yeah, including personnel.
Like I always say, everything, we just need to be successful. And right now, I think yesterday we had a run of 6.
All right, he cut out there for a second. If we can get that back, there we go.
You're not going to win a national football league like that.
Any updates on Epster and Mumford?
No, I haven't got them. Just got out of meetings right now.
You've consistently talked since you came here about avoiding the roller coaster, not riding that roller coaster, and it's kind of been a roller coaster. I mean, how do you turn what you want into seeing that on the field?
Yeah, it's collective. It's not myself speaking on it. It's not the coaches. It's the players. It's everybody. We have to do it. We have to buy in. It's one of those games when you watch it. We got beat up on physically. We weren't the more physical team yesterday. We didn't look like the team that wanted it more yesterday, and that's got to be a message that we rally around and we really take pride in. And you're gonna have times where sometimes your best players don't have their best days, and other guys got to step up, and that's why it's called team football. I think more importantly, I think all of us need to just understand like you got a role. You need to do it the best you can do it at full speed. The effort wasn't up to par. It had been in previous games. That showed up. That didn't look good at the end of the game. So those are examples.
But performance yesterday that obviously nobody was happy with. But there's been some that have been great, like outstanding along the way. Because if you identified anything, like going into those games, preparation wise.
No, I mean, listen, we talked about the opportunity here to be 2-1 at home. The crowd was amazing, like freaking amazing yesterday. Loud, rowdy, felt a little bit old school, but we didn't come to play. You see that, the very first series defensively. I mean, he went right down the field, and then offensively it wasn't pretty. And that just kind of, led up to, now, okay, did we press a little bit? Did we stress? Did we not do a good enough job of, reiterating, our must, the goals, the objectives, and then just kind of we always talk about resetting, after each series. And I think sometimes we let a play or a series linger, and I saw that at halftime. We try to adjust that then. But, the roller coaster, it's an emotional game. It's human nature that plays an element of that, and we just got to control those elements.
Jackson playing right guard, alternating a little bit with Bill. Is that kind of the plan moving forward, or is because we saw him at left guard, previously? Is there where you feel he's better at? I guess.
No, we're trying to get him on the field, and that might be a one-time deal. It might be going forward, but just trying to get him on the field, and again, trying to find the best 5 offensive linemen, continuity and chemistry, and obviously protect the quarterback, run the football.
I know that you want ball control, you want to eliminate turnovers, but Al Davis talked about Raiders don't take what the defense gives you, they take what they want. Would you, in that scheme of still being protective of the football, does your offense need to attack more?
I mean, we took shots yesterday, right? We hit 11 early in the game, backed up, great drive there, 97-yarder. That got us down, and then obviously we scored with that big play with Trey Tucker. Then we had some plays down the field in the red zone. Then we took another shot later on, and then there's other opportunities where, for whatever reason, it wasn't taken, either a breakdown or a sack, or we missed the read, whatever it could be. We didn't get those other opportunities, but we felt like yesterday was a great opportunity for take shots. We threw 2 of them. I'd like to have more.
How much of a factor is Max not being close to 100% with that ankle having on the rest of the defense? It seemed like everybody kind of played that a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, our effort, our energy, our passion did not show up yesterday. And that just can't always be 98. I mean, we obviously what 98 is dealing with. You see it. He gave it all he had yesterday, and we got to protect the player. But more importantly, there's 10 other guys on the field that got to play to a high level. And we did that last week against Baltimore. Those guys did do that. We just got to be consistently doing it. And we didn't play bad because Max wasn't like Max yesterday, right? Max is still at 80% a lot better than any defensive end in the National Football League. So I think just for all of us is just doing our job, not getting frustrated with a play or two here and letting that go. That really showed up yesterday for us.
Talking in the past about saving Max from Max. Is that a thought you had about his status this week and playing him or not, or not really?
No, I mean, the thought was to play him. If he's able to play him. If he's injured, then we'll protect the player. But Max he's different, man. He's a guy that's going to take everything, and the God-given ability to not allow him to play. And if he has anything that he feels like he can do, we'll let him play. But I think the biggest thing, man, is just, you got some guys picked up on the D-line, right? Malcolm, Tyree, and then Max. And you got your captain, your leader that wants to be out there with his players. So we got to look at that going forward and how we're going to handle it.
You said you haven't spoken to the players yet, but how do you expect them to react to the business decisions comment from you yesterday?
It's football, right? After a loss like that, things need to change.
It's because Terry Murphy got hurt so early. DJ Glaze pretty much played the whole game. What do you think about his performance?
I thought he did well. I thought he had a tough matchup there with Clowney. He had some power rush moves on, but for the most part, coming in there, he had limited reps throughout the week, but it was just kind of what we saw in training camp for the guys that were there. Came in, he filled in, and we'll see what's going on with Mumford. And if DJ's there, we're not panicking because for the most part, DJ showed up yesterday.
I know we don't know how long Marcus Epps might be out, but how confident are you in Isaiah pulling him out, stepping in and filling in?
Yeah, I mean, he's played a lot for us. That third safety, had some rotational roles in years past and Dime. But now he's in his third year. We're really comfortable with him. He had a really good preseason. Stepped up yesterday, did a decent job filling in. So we'll see what happens with the F's here. And then if it's Isaiah, obviously we feel really comfortable.
There's some national media. They're trying to decipher who the business decision's about, and they're showing plays with Jack Jones. Did you, in particular, have any problem with Jack Jones's effort in the games?
I had a problem with our entire defense.
After watching the film, anything jump out for Carter in the passing offense that you saw on the film?
Yeah, there's some plays that I know, obviously, we always say, you want to make and take advantage of. I thought we did do some good things. The problem is, when you don't win on early downs, these longer third downs that's not in the best interest of our offense and Gardner. So we got to do a better job on early downs and make it easier for them on third down.
What you see from Aiden in his limited spot there? You talked yesterday about just giving him a shot and see what he can do. But is there any chance whatsoever that gives you pause going forward?
Well, I just think, you look at how the game went, down by 2 scores or so. Let Aiden come in and see what he can do with the offense, move it. We're just trying to look for a spark.
All right, so he's probably going to speak for a little bit longer. If he says anything else here that we think you need to hear, we'll play it back. But we have an opportunity from time to time to take his press conferences live with a flagship. We interrupt our programming to do that, not every time. But I thought it was really important that we hear what the head coach has to say. And effort, not physical enough, didn't want it more. So the team did not show up. We all know that. It's absolutely unacceptable. It came at the worst time of the entire year. I told you directly, there was one game on the entire schedule, one, that they couldn't lose. They lost that game. They're going to lose games. They're going to win games. I think this is a better team than most people think. I've said that a lot. When healthy. Now you take Kuntz away. You possibly have Epps gone. That could change. But I think it's a better team. Look, they beat Baltimore. In Baltimore, they hosted the AFC Championship game. I don't think it's a bad team. But when they don't show up, they're not good enough to win. So the minimum is this team has to show up at the highest level. They have to play pretty close to penalty-free. They have to do multiple things well, which they can, and they have under Antonio Pierce dating back to last year. But in maybe the game that they had to have, you have to have that game, they didn't show up. And it was their home opener. This team's been around for 65 years and have a new logo, which is pretty sharp, 65-year anniversary logo. And that was probably one of the worst efforts in Raider history at home that I've ever been a part of in my 27th year with the team, dating back to Oakland and all the disappointments and the great times and the disappointments and the great games. The one thing that I have to do, and for those who say, JT, what are you going to do today? How are you going to spin it? If you've been listening to my show for 5 seconds or 25 years, when the team plays poorly, I criticize them harder than anybody. But I don't make it personal, and that's what some of you want to do. You want to make fun of owners. You want to make fun of coaches. You want to fire people on my radio show with people I got to work with. That has never happened, and it never will. That's why it was the birth of social media. So everybody can say whatever they want there, from tough guys to beer muscles, but no one says it in person. Antonio Pierce is everywhere in town. You can walk up to him and say whatever you want to him. You won't do that. But you could use this radio show to be fair with your analysis and criticism. There was no effort in this game. The players are going to hear about it. Mark my word. And Eric Allen, before I get to the phone calls here, said something great. I got to get the sound. Actually, we should have it. Eric Allen talked this week about practice and the practice squad players. He said the practice squad players have to go after the starters. Not dirty. No one can afford to get injured. But if you got to put your hand in Colton Miller's face mask and you're on the practice squad because you're practicing, it's not about you on the practice squad this week. You're supposed to portray Myles Garrett on Cleveland. You're supposed to act like the defensive tackle for Cleveland. So if you got to get a little rough, you got to get a little nasty with Andre James, you better do it this week. You better come into practice if you're in the practice squad and have a parking pass and work for this team and don't start You better come after it on Wednesday in pads. You better come after those starters, including Max Crosby, who you're not going to get past, and you better get in their face, and you better get to the level that Pierce needs you to be at. You better wake up these starters. If you're a backup and you're a practice squad player, you better wake up the starters. And Eric Allen said it, not me. If a fight breaks out, good. You got to get nasty this week. Someone's got to get nasty. Something's got to happen in that building this week. Someone, I don't know who it is, has got to show up and strap it up, a non-starter, and says, I'm here. I'm here and I want you today. And these guys need to be worked over, and they need to be pointed out and said, we're coming to get you. I'm a backup. I'm on the practice squad. The way you played this week, when I didn't dress, I want your job. Maybe that's what they need. Chris in West Oakland, start us off. What's going on, Chris?
Yeah, you're right. 55 years of being a Raider fan, that's as ugly a game as I've seen. And I will say this is the first time in the 13 games Antonio Pierce has coached that this team didn't look ready to play. For whatever reason, home opener coming off a big win in Baltimore. One thing I've disagreed with, and I told people during the week that said this, and by the way, I'm one of those idiots that got suckered in after beating Baltimore. I said they beat this team 34-10. I thought they were finally ready to turn the corner and hammer an opponent they were supposed to handle. But when I hear people say trap game, the Ravens overlooking the Raiders might be a trap game. The Chiefs overlooking the Raiders could be a trap game. The Raiders aren't at the level to have a trap game. They're still trying to find their way. The Raiders don't have trap games because they're on par with the average teams right now. I don't know that this is a good team, JT. I don't know if they're a bad team. I don't think they're very good. I don't think they're horrible, but I know they're not at the level that they can go through the motions and still go out there and pull out a game. And what you saw yesterday was just pure ugliness. Antonio Pierce's comment about business decisions, he's right. I watched the game, JT. I don't know who he's talking about because everybody's effort was horrible on both sides of the ball. One thing that worries me is the complete temperature of this team is usually Max Crosby. A week ago, he completely controlled the game. He was clearly compromised yesterday. I don't know if that had something to do with it on defense or not, but clearly nobody just stepped up to help out Max, who was not himself yesterday. And one of the Achilles heels yesterday, JT, on defense, we talked about for a long time, it reared its ugly head, the middle of the field, because our safeties sit back. They're not giving up huge plays, but they're not making plays either. Yesterday's one of those games where one big play, a turnover, an interception, maybe changes momentum. But going forward, I'm with you. I'm not going to make things personal. I'm very disappointed, but I'm not shocked at what Luke Getsy's running simply because this is his track record with the Bears. I will say this. If you're going to run the ball, do something different. Stop lining up and running into the pile. I'm sure Coach Pierce lit the team up at halftime. Then what do you cut out? You'll run the ball into the pile on first and second down, and you give Gardner Minshew a 3rd and 9 on the first drive of the second half. There needs to be a little more creativity. There needs to be a little more pulse starting at the top. Again, this is the first time in 13 games this team's come out not ready to play. I don't think that's going to be the case this week because guess what? Cleveland's not very good, but the Raiders have proven after yesterday they can lose to anybody because they didn't just lose, JT. They got their asses kicked by a team that might not win 3 games this year, maybe 4. I think they'll win a few more with Dalton, but make no mistake, this isn't a team that was one player, one quarterback change away from being a contender. I'm boggled, JT. I can't believe that with the crowd yesterday, huge home field advantage, one of the rare games where a team doesn't travel well. You probably had 90% Raider fans in there. They laid a freaking egg. So they got a week to get it right, and you're right. Maybe they need a practice in pads. Maybe they need to get back old school. Do what Antonio Pierce has talked about. You want to change the culture? Make these guys get into full contact on Wednesday. Make them get so pissed off they want to fight each other, so maybe they'll take it out in Cleveland on Sunday, because if they don't, this season's going to turn ugly really, really quick. We'll talk more about the Cleveland game later in the week. Thanks for getting to me in the first second, man.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Look, Cleveland is in a really bad spot now. And Carolina was in a really bad spot, but they were healthy and they played well. And they outplayed the Raiders. The Carolina Panthers are better than the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Carolina Panthers coming into the game was the worst team in football. They went from the worst team in football out of the bottom 5. Okay, they're out of the bottom 5. Now they might be back in there a week from now. I don't know. But man, the Raiders are getting some home cooking. I think the Raiders are going to have a lot of guys on that injury report this week who are banged up, who are going to try to play through pain. But Cleveland is decimated, absolutely decimated on their injury report. And the Raiders have to take their will away and come up here. Look, part of my job is to be a therapist and to try to get everybody through this. And you get me through it too. And it's sports. It's sports. There's a lot of people that are listening and got real problems in life. Putting food on the table, family health, a lot of really big stuff. This is sports. It's pretty cool to talk sports. When you see a game like this that you scratch your head and you can't figure out, it's concerning. So let me just be the first to say this on the monologue. This is one of the biggest, most absolute must-win games I have ever been a part of with the Raiders in Vegas. Period, must-win game. Okay? The only game the whole season that they had to win, they just lost. The only layup they were given a layup that they had to win, they blew it and they got just beat badly and they didn't show up. Now this game becomes a game they have to win. And I think that's encouraging. I would put pressure in the building on the players to play under pressure of their jobs and livelihood in a game against Cleveland if that's what it's going to take to get them out of the snooze fest and the slumber, which was that last game. The players who played hard, they know who they are. The players who made a business decision, we're going to find out who they were. But Rich Gannon said it. There's got to be some leader in that locker room, and it can't be Max. Max does it all the time. Someone has to take control of that locker room, not the head coach, and take control of it and say, never again. This will not happen again. And they're playing at home at Allegiant Stadium. That's the good news, is that we know that the crowd's going to be there. Cleveland's going to have a lot of fans. I mean, Cleveland's buying every ticket available if they get their hands on it. So that is not going to be a 90-10 Raider crowd. And maybe that's what the Raiders need. Maybe the Raiders need to have their back up against the wall, pinned up against the wall, and the only way they're going to get out of it is with a backyard brawl. Someone's going to have to throw the first punch, and he better be wearing silver and black. Again, that was the worst loss I've ever seen in Vegas. This is a young team in Vegas. They haven't been here long. We're talking 5 years. And that, to me, goes down as the worst performance and effort I've seen. And to a coach who's a highly motivated guy who will not let it happen again. 702-365-9200. Mark Anderson from the AP will join us next hour. Sam Monson at the top of the hour. I'm going to go around the league and talk about the rest of the league. A lot of teams in trouble. See what's going on with Dallas? New Orleans laid an egg. The Chargers lost. Kansas City wins again when they should have been beat. And wait till I tell you how many teams in football are 1-2. At least the Raiders got a chance to get to 2-2. All right, that was pretty good. Pretty good. We heard a little bit from the coach, a little bit from me, a little bit from Chris.
Hello, Nick. You're going to be leading off. Give me about 4 minutes. That's all.
All right.
Robert.
Yeah, just a really bad game, and it's hard.
You are number 3. Hang on. Check out.
See what else is what he's saying. Yeah, I don't think the Raiders are the laughing stock of the league, Ishmael. They're one of I think 11 teams that are 1-12. I'll get the exact thing.
Matt, you're going to be number 4. Hang on, okay?
Yes.
Probably try to bang through these. We've got Monson at the top. This is going to be Minshew to Tucker in the first quarter coming back.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's see how many 1-2 teams there are, because that's not a good place. Cleveland is 1-2. Miami, New England, Denver, Las Vegas, Indy, Baltimore, Those are the 1 and 2 teams. Oh, I didn't even get to the NFC. Hold on. NFC 1 and 2. Atlanta, Arizona, LA Rams, San Fran, Carolina, Dallas. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 teams. How about that, Bobby?
Well, they should make you feel a little better than the Raiders at 1 and 2, I suppose.
The teams with no wins are Cincy, Jacksonville, Tennessee. That's all in the AFC. And in the NFC, there's no team that hasn't won a game. The Giants, Chicago, all those teams have won. Yeah. You know, people have asked me, they asked me last night who they'd go with at quarterback. I'm going to save this for the air, but here's what I'll tell you because you're kind enough to join me on YouTube. If you need a spark, by Wednesday or Thursday, the coaches are going to know if they need a spark. If they look flat at practice and they don't bounce back, I would go with Aiden O'Connell because they need a spark. If they think Minshew in this matchup against Myles Garrett and he's questionable, everybody else here, you know, I wonder if you give Minshew one more game. But you would only give Minshew one more game. I mean, you give him one more game. You give him 4 games, and if it doesn't work, then you go to O'Connell for the rest of the year. And I'm fine with that. But to be specific, I would go with Aiden O'Connell if they don't see a great reaction from Gardner on Wednesday. I give Gardner 1 day of practice. If he doesn't come out and throw the ball well and play well, then I just move on.
1 minute.
Yep.
Virgin Hotels Las Vegas celebrates the icons of music. Get tickets now to the Wu-Tang Clan's residency this September 27th and 28th. The saga continues for another great weekend at the theater at Virgin Hotels Las Vegas. Experience the group's
Man, Derek Carr had a bad game, man. 142 yards, a touchdown, a pick, 14 completions. It's a good win for the Eagles. First road win in the last 5 games.
Joe Seafood, prime steak and stone crab. The legendary seafood restaurant on Miami Beach is right on the strip to bring you a true dining destination. Serving USDA prime steaks, quality seafood, and world famous Florida stone crab.
Yeah, I got to get that audio of EA. That's good stuff.
Over a century. Inside the forums of Caesars, Joe's offers guests an experience that is perfect for lunch, after-work cocktails, social gatherings, to late-night dining. From private, semi-private dining for
Yep, I'm ready.
and large party gatherings.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by PT's, the best happy hour in town, 5 to 7 p.m. and midnight to 2 a.m.
There it is for Rick James. Gardner looks right. He pops. Now he looks to the left. Takes the shot. Down the middle of the field.
Tucker makes the grab at the 30, and he's brought down at the 25-yard line. They've been waiting for Trey Tucker to break loose, and boy, did he ever. That's a pickup of 56 yards.
All right, that was a big play. Trey Tucker had his best game as a Raider. That was his career game. He had 7 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. If you told me before the game Trey Tucker had 7 receptions and touchdown, I'd say the Raiders win the game by 2 touchdowns. But the rest of the way, they just couldn't get it done. And the problem now is the running game. Listen to this stat, which is a rough one to read to you. The Raiders have had 55 or fewer rushing yards in 3 straight games for the first time in franchise history. Ever. That can't happen. So that's on the offensive line, the running backs, the scheme, and the scheme seems to be a problem. So the Raiders have a 1-2 record. Let me give you every team in football that's 1-2. And I'll go slowly because I want you to instantly think, you don't have to call in, if the Raiders are better than the teams I mentioned. So in the back of your mind or on your steering wheel, just pound your steering wheel if you think the Raiders are better than these teams or not. 1-2 teams: Cleveland, Miami, New England, Denver, Indianapolis, Baltimore, the LA Rams, Atlanta, Arizona, San Francisco, Dallas, and Carolina. Okay, I just mentioned those are all the 1 and 2 teams who are in the same boat as us. So you want some glasses half full before we go half empty? Feels like a half empty day today. The good news is we play Cleveland, who right currently now is one of the worst teams in football. But we said that about Carolina, and that didn't work out. So Cleveland's got more injuries than Carolina. Cleveland's got a quarterback in Deshaun Watson who's so messed up mentally that if he comes into Allegiant Stadium and wins this game and the Raiders put him on track, then there's going to be problems that I can't answer for you. You just had Andy Dalton and you got Deshaun Watson coming in. Deshaun Watson's an absolute head case. He's lost all his mojo, his confidence, and he's coming in here. But that's a must-win game for Cleveland. I had Cleveland in the playoffs this year, not the Raiders. Cleveland is a pretty good team defensively, but their injuries, they had 3 guys injured on the offensive line. Deshaun Watson was sacked 8 times, and most of it came from the interior. The interior. They lost to the New York Giants. The Giants were considered the worst team in football 48 hours ago, if it wasn't Carolina. I mean, the Raiders are getting some home cooking here, man. I mean, we're not going on the road to Kansas City or San Francisco, everybody. You got a home game against Cleveland. We'll get into that tomorrow because I think that's really important. Nick's in San Jose. What's going on, Nick?
Hey, Rick. Look, thank you for being honest with us today and always bringing the passion. Give me just a few moments here. I was 8.5 years old on January 22nd, 1984. We destroyed one of the best teams at the time, Theismann. We destroyed them. Talk about running back. Howie Long even said that the best teammate he's ever had was Marcus Allen. And we know what happened there. Then we moved back to Oakland. Shelgo, the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years before that. Then we get Boy Wonder Gruden and we trade him away. And the next year we go to the Super Bowl and Barrett Robbins goes crazy. People get to the 8th state and we win that last game in Arrowhead. Brand won him back like Shane Leckler. Made him back. He made a mistake in a private email. We should have stuck with him. Satya. Playoffs. All the major leagues is the league of parity, man. We have 0 playoff wins and 2 appearances since 2002. Yesterday is a pathology in the culture of this team since we left Tampa Bay in 1984. We're going to win with Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. We're going to win with Zamir White.
All right, you're breaking up. Let me jump in. You're breaking up. As you scream, something's happening to your phone where it's cutting out. So I love your passion. I know about the track record since 2002. I was there for it. I was there at the Super Bowl hosting the stuff I'm hosting now, and it hurts. And there's been a lot of coaches that have come and gone. Antonio Pierce deserves this job. He got the job. He deserves the job. Now he's got to fight his way out of this turmoil and get the team to play better. I'm very disappointed that the team didn't show up. That's the one thing I didn't expect. I didn't know if they'd win the game. I don't predict games for a living. Don't know if they're going to drop a ball. There's going to be a bad call from the ref. They're going to hit the upright on a field goal. None of that mattered. They did not show up to their home stadium in front of their home fans, and everybody needs to be held accountable. Anybody who plays football or coaches football has a rough week in front of them, and we're going to see who the leaders are, and hopefully there's a bunch of them. We're brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka.
It's the morning tailgate.
Steve Weish is here, NFL Network.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, he was screaming. He was a bit off. The caller just stressed me out. Yeah.
The morning tailgate, weekdays at 7
Raider Nation, what's your name?
Radio 9
9:20 a.m.
It's football season, and the best place to catch the games is at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Featuring the
If you want to call in or tweet in and say AOC should get the job, go do it. Go do it. I told you what I thought about AOC playing. If they think they have to play him now to save the season, I'm all for it. I've seen enough of Gardner Minshew to say that he's struggling with this offense because the offensive line isn't very good. So how's that going to help Aiden O'Connell, who doesn't have as much mobility as Gardner Minshew? I don't know. No, I disagree. I thought the quarterback play was really bad. I told you about that if you watched the live stream when the team was in Costa Mesa. They didn't have a very good preseason at the quarterback position. These quarterbacks need to play more in the preseason, I can tell you that much. All right. Oh. Man, there's a lot of teams in trouble in the NFL, man. I mean, the Raiders are not the only team that stunk up the joint. They did it in an environment at home, which was the worst to do it at. But wait till you hear what Dallas is getting. The heat on Dallas is so much more intense. Raiders play Miami this year. Miami doesn't look competitive. Carolina, looking back, Bobby, Carolina was a pretty good team. They were. I mean, the reason why they beat the Raiders so badly.
It's a matter of them being good is the Raiders just not showing up.
Yeah, not only did the Raiders not show up.
They didn't look like freaking Super Bowl contenders.
Well, Carolina showed up and played well. I mean, but part of the reason the Raiders lost, I know they didn't show up, but Carolina played an outstanding football game.
Not only that, the Raiders secondary got exposed badly.
Yeah, they did.
And they, even if you're going to make a 5-yard pass, then they're getting 10 yards after the catch. That's the thing with children. By the way, the Golden Knights won yesterday.
Anywhere in the valley with live local entertainment 7 nights a week. Great place to watch football games. Check it out at lacasacigars.com.
Sign up
Sorry,
today
I like
for
about
a new
five.
Yep.
Nevada Mobile Sports account, and you can earn a $50 bonus bet on top of your original $50 or more deposit and wager. The William Hill Nevada Mobile Sports app allows you to bet on the go from any iPhone, iPad, or Android device anywhere in Nevada. Sign up today, and you will never miss another bet. With the largest wagering menu, the mobile sports app features live and play wagering on all major sports. For more information, official rules, and to see participating sign-up locations, visit williamhill.us. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
When you are injured, knowing that someone has your back changes everything. Our family has spent over 3 decades fighting and pursuing justice for the injured. It's a long family heritage that we proudly carry on.
All right. 388 people in there. Good stuff. Yeah, I don't like to throw behind the line of scrimmage unless it's to Brock Bowers.
Nevada SPCA is the community
Back to the 30. It's going to be O'Connell for Myers for a touchdown.
Look, I know you're all pissed at Getsy. I can tell you're all pissed at Getsy. Just, remember the players were really bad yesterday. Really bad. Okay. Getsy calls to play. If he calls a handoff, there's going to be handoffs in the game. If the guy doesn't get back to the line of scrimmage, don't blow up the play caller every time. If you don't like it on second down and you want to pass, I get it.
Brought to you by Comisario Tequila, the official tequila of the JT the Brick Show.
Cuts upfield, trying to drag defenders. Touchdown Raiders. He caught it at the 7, stuck his foot in the ground and turned towards the end zone. And Jacoby Myers has his first touchdown of the season. And the Raiders are on the board here in the fourth quarter. It's 33-13.
Jacoby Myers, whenever they give him the ball, will make a play. He got it there in garbage time at the end of the game, and he played hard. The coach wasn't calling him out. I can promise you that. JT, back with you. The secondary got exposed yesterday, so I don't know. I think the severity of Marcus Epps' injury is pretty severe, but I don't have any clarification. The coach didn't mention it at all today, so we'll wait to see what's going to happen there. We'll wait to see what's going to happen there with him. But when you look at what's going to happen When you look what's going to happen in the future here, they got to get the next man up, which is Isaiah Palomal. And then they probably have to go out and figure out Christopher Smith II. Who else is going to play safety there? I've said this. They got to get another defensive end. Everyone's saying Yannick Ngakoue, whoever it is. They need another defensive end. They just don't have the bodies there. And they need to figure out if they made mistakes on the offensive line. I mean, the offensive line is not competitive. It's one of the worst offensive lines in football through 3 games. That's unfortunate. And I don't know if they're going to improve much. I don't know. They haven't looked good at all. Haven't given the quarterback the time. And the quarterback, we have a quarterback controversy now. We do. I told you I would alert you when we had it. We have one now. We didn't have one in Costa Mesa. Apologize. We didn't have one in Henderson in the preseason or the offseason. Now we do. If you want to bench Gardner Minshew, I'm fine with that. But you only do that if you need a spark. And as I told people in our YouTube chat, that if you don't need a spark and Gardner comes out on Wednesday and plays well, and you look at the film and you say, Gardner can beat Cleveland more so than AOC, I hate saying that word, Aiden O'Connell, then you put Gardner back. But you only give Gardner one more game. You're not going to give him 6 more games. So he's on the hot seat. We all know that, and he deserves to be. He's not playing well. I mean, look at this. Raiders have played 3 games, 12 quarters. He played well in one of them. I would think that Aiden O'Connell, if he played 12 quarters, would play better than just 1 good quarter. So it's pretty fair. If you want to see him play, I don't have an argument with you. Robert in Portland, thanks for waiting. Go ahead.
Yeah, JT, I listened to your night show last night. You're spot on. It's a war of attrition in the league, and I think what JT's faced with now. You watched L.A. Rams you brought up earlier today. They did adjust. The Niners, when they were down 2 scores,
Hey, Joe, you're next.
A very depleted offensive line. I watched us. We fell 2 scores behind. There was really, we just didn't come back from that old line. I don't know if it's a schematic situation. God knows what it is, but that is the core problem. Lincoln Kennedy has said that it's going to take 8 to 9 games for it to straighten out. God knows what would happen if that takes that long, but he probably is about right. I just don't know. Adam said the key thing in all the post-game comments. He said, what's the Raiders' biggest problem offensively? You know what he said? Rhythm. And that's a key thing, but I think it starts up front, like you said last night in the big show nationally. I just don't want to give up on this team. I had them winning 32-12 like Chris, but I do have to, you have to face reality, and the O-line has to get corrected.
Yeah, you're right. Thanks for the call. Look, this is a must-win game coming up, and if they win this game, I'm not going to sit there and say the next game's a must-win game. This is the must-win game. Okay? No one else is going to tell you that. No one else is going to say that. Carolina was the only game they couldn't lose. They did. That makes the next game a must-win game because it's at home. And because of the opponent's injuries and how poorly they're playing, the Raiders cannot survive losing this game if they want to be competitive later in the season. Now, there's a chance they can go 1-3 and rattle off 4 out of 5. I don't know anybody who believes that. I think they're a team, if they get to 2-2, they can get to 3-3. They can get to 4-3. But they have to get to 2-2. They really do. And I'm talking as a season ticket holder who has a lot of tickets that I need for my family and friends. This is a game they have to have. Just go win the game. Go win the game. And play better. They're not going to play that poorly again. Oh, save that soundbite. I don't think they are. I don't think they're going to play that poorly again.
Better not.
They better not, or there's going to be jobs on the line. Joe in Vegas. What's going on, Joe?
Hey, JT, I'm a season ticket holder.
Yep.
So I am disappointed today. But you know what I'm disappointed about, JT? They wanted a blackout. We gave them a blackout. Okay? A lot of people had this game circled on the calendar because it was going to be a cheap ticket to get because the Panthers don't travel. There was young families sitting in my section. I'm going to get a little choked up. A guy with 4 kids, him and his wife, they got 4 seats. They got 2 babies sitting on their seats. They got bags full of stuff that they bought. You look around with all the people. You can tell it was the first time at the stadium. They got bags of goodies that they're paying. And they come out and they lay an egg. They wanted a blackout. We gave them a blackout. We go there, we yell, we scream. You spend money every year. I spend money every year and stuff. But it's the same old, same old. And they come out and to just disrespect the season ticket holders and disrespect Raider Nation like they do year in and year out. I don't think they understand how hard people work.
They do.
Get to go to one game and get to go to one game. I go to every game at home. These people work their asses off to get to one game and just to root on their team, and our team can't show up.
Well, let me jump in, Joe. That's pretty personal what you said. They care, and they're professionals, and they're really beat up by their performance and how poorly they played. So I don't think that their intention was to disrespect fans who were going to their first ever game. Their intention was to win the game. They played a really bad game, and they're getting called out by their coach. They're getting called out by the fans, the flagship station. They know what's happening. We want to build them up, and we want them to win games. But I think now they have to lick their wounds, and they have to look back and say, we got a win coming up next. And maybe this is rock bottom. I hope it is, because it can't get any worse than that football game. That was a terrible, lackluster effort. It was a complete no-show.
The morning tailgate with Clay Baker.
Yep. All right, I'm going to keep it here because we got a really big crowd of people here. So I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay here and take a little bit of a break. But everybody chat amongst themselves. We're going to have Sam Monson coming up from Pro Football Focus, who's good. We're going to go around the league. And then Mark Anderson from the AP, who covers the Raiders, will join us. We'll probably bail out around then. So that's what we're going to do. We'll get going. And I'll take this another about 15 minutes. Hunter, worst game I ever experienced. I agree. I thought that was the worst game I ever attended. I think the Raiders were outcoached in that game. How could you say they weren't? Andy Dalton and Dave Canales destroyed the Raiders. That's pretty easy. That's low-hanging fruit.
Everyone knows that hard work deserves a fitting reward. A Pilsner-style lager with a crisp, clean taste.
Chicago Brewing Company on West Sahara and Fort Apache is our headquarters.
Yeah, if we're going to do Mark Davis needs to sell the team, then you can get out of here. You can just get out of here, and that doesn't happen here on my show ever. Mark's a friend of mine. Mark's the owner of the team. Mark wants to win. Mark's done everything to try to budget the team to win and pay for all these guys. So, again, you can think that alone. If you say it, you're gone. I've told you that from day one. So just act like a fucking adult and be able to get on a chat and not say, fire everybody and do this and do that, because you're not going to live here. You're not going to be here at all.
Powerful enough to share my screen more smoothly?
Got it. Powerful enough to keep my games online and my squad on top? Oh yeah, that's pretty powerful.
Introducing Cox Fiber from the company with the fastest download speeds 9 years in a row. It's internet built for tomorrow, today. Cox, always building better. Limited availability until the 30th. Transfer here, not guaranteed. Speed test intelligence, Las Vegas, Omaha, Phoenix. Q2 2016 to Q1 2024.
Hi, this is Peyton Manning. I know a thing or two about audibles, specifically when it comes to making a change during the game. You can call your own audibles with early cash out on the Caesar Sportsbook Nevada app. With early cash out, now you have the option to audible your previously placed wagers with just a click.
Audible? Is this just an excuse for you to say Omaha in an ad?
Exactly, Eli. Omaha.
Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Raider Nation, what's your name?
Wake up.
Good, man. I've got a couple of headaches. They're giving me a whole protein milk. Hang on, okay?
And nature-made vitamins. Whatever your morning sounds like.
All right, hour number 2. Hour number 2.
Now that's a good morning. We take care of you so you can take on your day. Start your day with Nature Made.
So Matt, you're up.
All right, we're back for hour number 2.
Dodger Radio, you're number 2.
Raiders remain at home as they host the Cleveland
Hello.
Browns Sunday at
Yeah, Dodger Radio, you're number 2.
Raider Nation Radio 920 AM KRLP Las Vegas.
Vince, you're number 3. Hang on,
Welcome
okay?
back to the JT the Brick Show. Brought to you by Raising Cane's Chicken
All right,
Fingers.
it's short one. Here
One
we go.
love.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac
You talk
Performance
for a minute, they'll go get
Studio,
Monson.
Silver and Black home to sound off for over 25 years. And now, here's JT the Brick.
All right, now we're number 2 of the show. Raiders coming off a really bad loss to the Carolina Panthers. Man, I didn't expect to say that on this Monday. This is the aftermath of that performance and your reaction to it. If you were at the game, if you went to the game with certain expectations, you didn't see certain things, you want to call out certain people, let me know. The coach spoke. The coach is having a big meeting coming up with the players. He had a big coaches meeting today. I think there's going to be a lot of accountability there, a lot of accountability, and the players are going to have to explain what happened when they have availability with the media. So that's all going to happen coming up here in the next couple of days. And then starting tomorrow, we'll look ahead to Cleveland. Cleveland's in a really bad place now. Remember, that team that hasn't won since Jim Brown back in 1965. So they are really looking to win, just like Carolina. They have to win. They have to win. So I call it a must-win game, and I don't say that too often. Sam Monson, kind enough to join us. We'll get to all of his work, his podcast, everything he's doing with the 33rd team. Sam, I want to start off with the reaction of the Cowboys' loss again. Back-to-back home games. Is it an overreaction, or are they just having their will tested because they don't seem to be tough? They have no identity on defense.
Yeah, and for a lot of years now, they haven't been able to stop the run. They run up against a team like Baltimore who wants to run a lot, is prepared to really work at it with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, and has multiple threats coming out of that backfield, and they were able to just run all over that. So, yeah, I think that run defense is a major, major problem. It's by far the worst run defense in the NFL through 3 weeks. The pass defense isn't fantastic either, and they're being kept out of, must pass situations to unleash guys like Micah Parsons, and the defense is really struggling. And then the offense, the other side of the ball, I think they're struggling with the players that they lost this offseason. This is kind of the consequences of their own inaction to replace players that left.
Yeah, I would agree with that because Mike Zimmer's defense and his past defenses are really tough. Vic Fangio's defenses. You look at some of the best defensive coordinators in football, their defenses travel well, and that's their calling card. And I think you nailed it, that Jerry didn't do enough with depth at that position, and they just don't seem to have the fight to play that good. What'd you see with Dak on tape in that game? Because that's a game they really needed. How'd the offense look with Dak Prescott?
I think Dak Prescott made some plays, but by the time he really started firing, the game was kind of out of hand, and they were in trouble. They were 14-3 down, I think, and Nate Wiggins, the rookie corner, forced the fumble on CeeDee Lamb, and when they were in the red zone, that could have turned the game flow. It could have changed it, made it a lot closer, and got Dallas right back into the contest. Instead, the Ravens get the ball back, and they avoid that disaster, and they end up extending the lead, and Dallas, by that point, we're just in too much of a hole to dig themselves back out of it.
Sam Monson is our guest. So, Sam, Antonio Pierce made a riveting viral response when he talked about some of his players making a business decision as they got blown out at home against Carolina. When you looked at the tape and the scheme there, do you have a sense of who he's talking about?
Not really. I mean, I think that's possible. I think it's kind of just directing your attention in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? Like late in the game, they were completely beaten. They were defeated. Things had gone terribly. And yeah, I think some heads started to drop and the Raiders didn't play well at the death. But I would be more concerned about what happened in the first half when they were trying hard and they were just getting destroyed. I mean, that's the bigger problem is that Andy Dalton came in off the bench for this start this week and just absolutely lit this team up and destroyed them. And that's, I think, a way more concerning thing than once they were getting blown out by one of the worst teams in the NFL in the first couple of weeks, heads started to drop and they didn't necessarily put in 100% effort late on. I think that's a far bigger issue.
Sam Monson is our guest. Check the mic. Great job that he does. It's a great new podcast with Steve Palazzolo. You got to download it. Get all your information in one podcast. All the information is up there. Real quickly on the Colts win over the Bears. I mean, Caleb Williams threw it 52 times. They didn't want that at all. And the Colts had all those interceptions, and they got their running game going with Jonathan Taylor, who had 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. I got to think that's Indy's formula going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the run game needs to be how that offense functions, both with Jonathan Taylor, but Anthony Richardson needs to be a part of the design run game as well. A big part, that combination can potentially do what Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson does in Baltimore and really give them the platform, and that will open things up even more for the pass game and then try and give Anthony Richardson some shots that he can't really miss, so wide open that he would struggle to miss them. But that's the key because right now he is wildly inconsistent as a passer and really doesn't need to be leaning on that run game.
The Giants win over the Browns. The Giants could have been 2-1 now, and you wouldn't have all this mass media in New York so critical of them when they were 0-2 by losing to the Commanders, which was a weird game statistically, and the kicking situation there. So the Giants get a win. How bad of a spot are the Browns in? And their offensive line and all their injuries. They got a lot of guys who got banged up in that game against the Giants and guys who weren't even in that game because they were injured from weeks before.
Yeah, they're banged up. The offensive line is getting worse because of the injuries. But really the biggest problem there is the guy on the most money. It's Deshaun Watson, who continues to just play nothing like a top-tier quarterback. I mean, a week ago he had a good game. We were debating whether it was the best performance he'd had as a Brown. But the 2 games either side of that have been terrible and just shows a worrying degree of incapable play at the quarterback position. It was a 4th and 1 where it was a simple flat on one side, and he couldn't read it. I mean, it was wide open. It was the coverage bust on the defense. They both went with the slant. They ignored the guy on the flat. It was 4th and 1. It's an easy, simple, automatic read for the quarterback to just hit the guy in the flat, pick up the first down, extend the drive. Instead, he talked himself in and out of throwing the slant, ended up not forcing it, and then took a sack instead. This is a basic read that a rookie would be criticized for not making. And Deshaun Watson is years into his career on a giant sum of money and is still making mistakes like that. You can't get by with that kind of quarterback play.
Sam Monson is our guest as we wrap it up. What a humbling loss for the Texans. I know they're on the road. I didn't think the Vikings would be this good with Sam Darnold. They look fantastic. They're very efficient. The ball's coming out quick. Guys are catching it in stride. The yak is amazing here. I just thought the Texans were a more formidable opponent. The Texans were shut out in the first, second, and fourth quarter overall.
Yeah, and I think they are more formidable in that. But right now, Brian Flores' defense has an absolute hex over these Kyle Shanahan offenses. He's done it to Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers twice, two seasons in a row now. He just did it to Bobby Slowick and Houston version. He had both Brock Purdy and then C.J. Stroud absolutely in a blender with this defense. I think Flores' defense is really good. Generally, it's had an upgrade in personnel from last season. I think the Vikings defense is going to be legit this season, but in particular, it seems to really cause problems for that Shanahan offense, like really no other defense in the NFL has.
Number 2, hang on.
Against basically every other system, the Shanahan scheme is better. It has the ascendancy. It's got the advantage, but against Florence, it just runs into a defense that it can't pick apart and it can't diagnose. And that was a huge part of that. You have to also give credit to the Vikings offense, which was able to still keep cooking despite Houston's defense being really good. But I think generally, that was an indication of how good the Vikings are more than a problem or an indication that the Texans are sort of fool's gold.
When you looked at the tape with the Broncos, did they find something with Bo Nix as a rusher and a thrower in the game overall? Because their defense completely dominated Baker Mayfield in that 26-7 win.
Yeah, their defense was great, and Bo Nix was definitely much better this week. He's a lot more athletic than I think people gave him credit for coming out of the draft, and we've seen that with leading the team in rushing the first couple of weeks. He was leading the team in rushing for a lot of this game as well until late on. And that's definitely buying him some breathing room. It's letting him make some plays with his legs and not have to do everything passing. And it meant that in a game like this, he was able to have a pretty good performance, certainly his best of the season.
Last one, Sam, the Seahawks, 3-0, 2-0 at home. They dismantled the Dolphins, who was shut out second, third, and fourth quarter, only got a field goal in the first quarter there. Should we keep an eye on the Seahawks here? Because I didn't think their defense would be this dominant.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is the impact that scheme can have. Pete Carroll's a really good coach and a really good defensive mind, but I think that group had kind of gotten a little bit stale and maybe a little bit, the message just stops resonating after a while when you've heard the same thing over and over again. Now you've got Mike McDonald coming in, bringing new, fresh ideas. The defensive scheme that might be on the cutting edge now, it might be overtaking the Fangio defense as the scheme that everyone really wants to have. And it's completely rejuvenated, certainly that defensive front. The secondary is continuing to look fantastic off the back of it. And, yeah, I think that's going to be one of the best defenses in the league this year.
Thank you, Sam. We're listening to the podcast. We'll tweet it out. Really appreciate you every Monday.
Anytime. Take it easy, guys.
Got it. Sam Monson from the 33rd team. We go around the league with him, and we will continue to do that every week because I need to talk NFL. Okay? It's Raider Nation Radio. I do a national show whenever I'm on. We're on nationally on this app. We're going to give as much Raiders as we think, and we're going to go around the league and talk football. There's 2 games on tonight, everybody. We live in Vegas where everybody's betting, gambling, right? We talk about sports and what's happening here. So the Raiders had a really bad performance. We'll talk about it heavy for today and tomorrow. Then we'll move on for Cleveland. He just told you Cleveland's a mess. If Cleveland came in 2-1, just destroying teams with a high potent Deshaun Watson and a defense that was healthy, good luck for the Raiders winning this game. The Raiders catch a break playing Cleveland. They got to take advantage of it, man, because they didn't take advantage of Carolina, and Carolina was no layup. Dodger Raider in Corona, California. Thanks for waiting.
What's up, JT?
What's happening?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Go.
Couple things. I'm gonna start off with some criticism, but I'm gonna end this call on a positive note. First, I think there's plenty of blame to go around to the coach, to the players, to the scheme. I'm not sure if they had a hangover from that Baltimore loss or they looked like they were banged up. And you know what, JT? I'm one of those families that player called about earlier. I saved money for months to take my son, and I surprised him for his birthday. This is our first game, attending our first game ever. Him and I together, and we spent a lot of money. Yes, we bought a lot of stuff, and I wish the players would take the accountability. And I'm not asking for an apology. All I'm asking is for them to acknowledge the fans that say, I've been listening to clips and reading quotes. Nobody's mentioned the fans. Nobody said, hey, to the fans, we'll make it right. We gotta keep playing hard. And we'll make it up. I don't get to go to 2-3 games a season, JT. This is the only game that I'll get to go this season because that's all we can afford.
Okay.
Maybe I'll be back next season, but we'll see. Okay. Lastly, I just want to say shout out to the Black Hole, man. We went to the March to Victory.
Yes.
It was awesome. My son loved it, and then we ended up at the Modelo tailgate, and that was super cool, super fun. My son had fun. He had a lot of stuff for families, for the kids, the face painting. He did some cornhole against another young kid from the Carolina Panther fan, and that was cool to see. And then it was good, and the stadium is beautiful, man. Like, our overall experience was great, and it was awesome. I just wish the Raiders would have came out and played like they were at home and used the crowd to their advantage because the crowd was hype, man. We were there. I was one of them. We were pumped up to see the Raiders play, but we'll see. Maybe next time.
All right.
We got.
Okay.
Let's make it up. up?
Yeah, again, I appreciate what you said about the Black Hole March to Victory. Mark Jones, who's in charge of the Black Hole, sent me a video in real time when I was on the pregame show in the building, and it looked incredible as they marched over the Hacienda Bridge. And Modelo has a new tailgate experience, which seems to be fantastic. We're live from the torch. We were really excited. Eric Allen and I, right after the pregame show, got called down to the field with Sibley Scholes, and we went on the jumbo board at that time in front of 50,000 people. I mean, most people were in their seats, and we went there, and I said, hey, I'm here for the Brock Bowers first ever game at home. I was really got the crowd going, very excited. And by halftime, I was sitting in my seats. Two shorts about to play. My wife wanted to watch that with one of my sons. And I'm in this Twitch club at the bar with a bunch of my buddies there who are like, we're leaving. I'm like, what do you mean you're leaving? They're like, well, we're going to give it another quarter. We're out of here. Some guys who weren't real Raider fans, but good friends of mine who were in town for the game, for some concerts, to see the Eagles and all that. And they just couldn't believe how poorly the Raiders played. They played terribly. Very shocked. Very surprised by that. They never showed up. I've mentioned that 30 times already on this broadcast. Vince is in North Las Vegas. Thanks for holding, Vince. Go ahead.
JT, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks.
I'm good. Yeah, I was at the game yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I also was a part of the march across Hacienda.
Mm-hmm.
It was wonderful. It was fantastic experience. They need to keep on doing
Yeah,
that.
they will.
Awesome having the band. But
Mm-hmm.
going back to the game, yeah, it was disappointing. I would think it seems like we're just trying to force like a square peg in a circle as far as us trying to establish this run game. I understand you need to be a running team, but I think that's not really what we are. I think our odds we have better odds at winning at just throwing the ball. We have too many good weapons in Devontae and Bowers and Jacoby and Tucker. And from that in that 97-yard drive, we were sitting at the 3. And for us to drive 97 yards, the deep ball from Minshew to Tucker, I mean, that should be our offense right there in a nutshell. And then it kind of opened up the run. After that play, we did run the ball, but it seems like with the offense, the team is like established.
Yeah.
They're trying to bring that physicality and that toughness, and that's not simply what we are on offense. Now, as far as the defense, that was a huge shock. The Red Rifle literally walked us down, and he had his way with the Raiders. I thought that was a huge shock, and that took everybody at a loss of words because we expect this defense to be an elite. But I'm not pointing the blame. I don't want to bench Minshew. I can't really put all the blame on Minshew. He played a decent enough game. It was just, I think it's the offensive scheme, and Luke Getsy's going to have to look in the mirror.
Okay, so what do you want? So let me jump in. I got to run here, Vince. Thanks for the call. So I'm not here to defend Luke Getsy. I'm just here to make sure that we give the other side of the equation. I don't like when Luke Getsy runs it back-to-back on any time with this team. Okay, let's get that out of the way. If they're going to run the ball, if they want to run it on first down and see if they can get 5 yards, fine with that. That's football. That's what everybody does. But this team has not proven that they can run the ball. So they shouldn't rely on the run or try to be stubborn to think that they can run it, and they're going to run it no matter what until they prove they can run it. Lincoln kind of said something similar when we talked to him on the pregame show, that you got to run a certain amount of plays. You got to limit the amount of plays you have, the runs, simplify it, and then run it in practice until it works. Well, you don't know if it's going to work in practice because you don't go full strength. You don't go full strength against your own team. So the sequence in play calling is a problem. And if you want to go 4 wide like I do, and the first play is tipped at the line of scrimmage and it's 2nd and 10, and they don't respect your running game and they're going to sit back with a cover 2 over the top, 2 high safeties, it's going to be hard. But it shouldn't be hard to get 5 yards of reception or 7 yards of reception, getting the ball out in a quick 3-step drop to Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, Jacoby Myers, and Devontae Adams. I would be passing the ball most of the time going forward here. Now, if Cleveland's close to being 100%, which they're not, but if they are, they got a good pass rush. And you're not going to have a lot of time to set your feet and have a 7-step drop and look all over the field and look for a wide receiver. Doesn't happen. But Cleveland's been banged up. And maybe this is the game where you just go, hurry up, fast attack, and get the ball to Devontae. The next time I go to a game and the first 5 plays, 3 of them aren't scripted to Devontae, I'm going to lose my blank. I am. If we can't script the first 3 out of 5 plays in the air to Devontae Adams, I don't know what he's doing here. You got Devontae Adams, period. You got to get the ball to him. There's times where he does not get the football, and they have got to force the ball to him. Now, he's got a couple of drops this year, and he's owned it. He's been asked about it. He's owned it. Devontae even has to play better. Raider Dave, always good to hear from you in Denver. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Unfortunately, I can't watch next week's game. I got Dodger tickets, and I promise my family wants to hear
Okay.
them. But I will say this about Luke Getsy. There was a couple of plays in the first game, a couple of plays in the second game, and hardly anything yesterday that surprised me. Deception, a run fake, the loop around type of run that roll out that Minshew would do. I didn't see any of that yesterday, and those were some of the most successful plays that they've had in the games past. So I'm really just I'm blown away that, is it like a bull in a china shop? It's going to be Luke's, way where he's going to throw it sideways, 4 times a game and just not budge. I think if that's the case, then Marvin Lewis has got to take over play calling. I just don't know what's going on here. You got a lot of talent. You're exactly right. And I've been saying for the last few years, get DJ Turner on a 5-wide set, run him and Tucker all the way down and clear out the safeties. Man, you got 35 yards for the other 3 guys to go ahead and occupy.
Doesn't have time to do it, Dave. The offensive line isn't pass protecting and running.
I get that, and I think that's more than anything else. I think that's why they started Gardner Minshew, to give this line time to gel, because I don't think they agreed, or I don't think they thought that this line was good enough for Aiden O'Connell to sit behind it. But at some point, you're probably going to have to bite the bullet, and the quick type of accurate throws are going to have to come from O'Connell versus Minshew, when you're going to have to get these slants and 10-yard outs to get first downs and march it down the field.
Yeah, that's fair. Appreciate the call. The offensive line isn't playing well. The quarterbacks aren't elite. You need a spark. You go with Aiden O'Connell. If you want to give Gardner Minshew a game, I give him one more game. Does everybody have that now? So someone can clip it on my show and put it on a website. Let's do this again in 3, 2, and 1. If you need a desperate spark to save the season, go with Aiden O'Connell now. If that's the spark, because you're only going to get one spark with him. I thought you maybe need it week 6, week 7. You now need it. So if you want to go with the spark, go with Aiden O'Connell. If Gardner has a good week of practice and shows that he is healthy, ready to play, and he's better in this matchup against Cleveland, I'd give him one more game. Real simple stuff here, man. This is like 3rd grade math. Gardner gets one more game, or he doesn't get any games, and you go with Aiden O'Connell. And if you want Aiden O'Connell, he better be ready to play and win. Because if you're going to use him once and he doesn't get you the spark, you wasted the spark. So you figure it out. I'm going to do the pregame show no matter who the quarterback is. I like Gardner's mobility against Cleveland and Baltimore. Already beat Baltimore. He had a great final 12 minutes. Cleveland, I think he's going to have to be mobile. The coaches will make that decision coming up. Hey, thanks to Modelo. They threw an unbelievable remote for us on Friday at Whiskey Stadium. We had a great crowd there. The Black Hole all showed up. They were fantastic. Appreciate all my friends from the Black Hole who came. All the staff from Modelo was fantastic. Thanks to Whiskey Stadium and all the other listeners who showed up along the way and said hello. It meant a lot to me. My friends came, and they were impressed because we had a great turnout. Thanks to everyone who attended. I really appreciate you for that. Thanks, everybody. Good day today. Good day today. It was a tough day. We're not done yet, but I'm going to wrap up the show off YouTube. Please hit the like button on the way out, and thank you, and please share it. And we hope for a good week this week, man. It's going to be a rough ride this week. This week is not going to be easy.